Today we will learn about an extremely sensitive case involving various forms of violence, and where the captivity of a person is still happening today inside a house, and in a rather peculiar way. I ask you to stay to listen to this story until the end, because I'm sure it's going to give you goosebumps. None of us can imagine that inside an ordinary house in any neighborhood, a similar scene could be happening, like the one I'm going to tell you about today. Remember that you can send me your experience to the WhatsApp number that's on the screen right now. The number and length of voice messages you send are not important. You can also add photos, videos, or anything else you think is necessary to make your story as complete as possible. I'll review the material you send. If I have questions, I'll contact you. Friends, please subscribe and stay until the end, as this story is truly unmissable. Let's begin. Many times I imagined that being part of a family that practices witchcraft would not only keep me away from all evil, but somehow I would be protected for my whole life. It took me years to realize that this idea was a complete mistake. And I could also say that my family was the worst thing I could have had since I was born. And I'm talking about my mom and my dad. Before I start, I'd like to clarify that even though I'm from a province in Argentina, I wouldn't like to share my personal information, nor the town where I lived for most of my life, since my parents are still there. And precisely because of what they do for a living, they're known in the area as the witches. I strongly ask that if anyone recognizes any part of what I'm about to tell and knows who they are, please keep silent. Because honestly, I don't want to be responsible once again for something my folks might do. They're bad people, really bad, and I say that from my own experience. For years, they did things to my siblings and me so they could worship who knows what entities, and also to keep us as if we were just another resource. And in fact, I'm almost sure they gave up my youngest sister's soul some time ago, because from that day on, she was never the same again. Maybe I became a little more aware of all this when I was about 5 or 6 years old. I have some memories of going into the back room where they worked and seeing my mom killing a chicken, while my dad was by her side holding some kind of black cloth. There were candles and many other things. They kicked me out immediately and forbade me, although I already knew it, from ever going back into that room since then. That day, I think I realized that my parents weren't like the rest, but even so, I didn't see them as a threat. That memory, beyond being a bit confusing of course because of my age, is so engraved in my mind that I can assure you it happened exactly as I told it. But I also understand that I was a kid, and time could have shaped this scene however it wanted. As I grew up, I started to suffer at school. Not just me, since I'm the oldest of 3, my younger brother and sister, who went to the same school, also started to go through the same thing. It was basically about being teased by other classmates. Bullying, as it's usually called nowadays, because many already knew that our parents practiced witchcraft, all kinds of rituals. Until those years, we weren't really sure what they did, what their work was, or why they did it. But school and the wickedness of our classmates taught us that all that witchcraft was done in exchange for money. I never told my mom or even thought about it, as she was hardly approachable. She was always very tough with us, and for any uncomfortable question, she could just hit you outright. My old lady, on the other hand, was a bit more normal, so to speak. And when I told her this, one of the strangest moments of my life happened. And I still carry that with me to this day, because in some way I feel responsible for what happened. She listened to me and told me that they did religious work manipulating energies to help people, and that not everyone understands that this is the case. That they healed people from illnesses, that they helped families move forward with economic issues. For example, helping a marriage avoid divorce, rekindling love, things like that. She was, and still is, very manipulative and said this in a way that automatically convinced me. Obviously, she's my mom, and I believed her at the time, like any son would. But the strangest thing was that after telling me all this, she asked me who had carried me at school. The truth is that it was almost the whole class, but there was one classmate in particular with whom I even ended up fighting several times. I told her that he was one of the ones who picked on me the most, and do you know what she did? She wrote down his first and last name on a little piece of paper and told me not to worry, that she was going to talk to his parents to tell them about this so he wouldn't bother me anymore. I pleaded with her not to intervene as it would embarrass me more than defending myself, so she, with a smile, told me to just relax then, but to try not to pay attention to them since everything they're doing is just out of pure ignorance. I held on to that, to her words, explaining to me that in reality they were doing good and not the opposite. But 3 days later, this classmate didn't come to class, and it was shocking to find out from the principal that this guy's name was Franco. He had died. It wasn't because of an illness or anything like that. It wasn't because of an accident. According to what they told us, he had a sudden death during the early morning, and it was believed that it could have been poisoning, although we never ever knew the details, obviously. At that very moment, my mother's face came to my mind, and that little piece of paper with the first and last name that she kept the day we talked. When I got home, I told my mom about this, and it made me really scared. When I see her looking at me, she smiles and says, "Well, now you can really be at ease, because she won't bother you anymore." From that moment on, I knew, or rather, I confirmed that my parents weren't just bad, they were dangerous. After this, many times, I wanted to go into that room where they did their work to find out a little more, but I didn't have the courage. I felt that if I did, something bad could happen to me, and I think I was absolutely right to think that. An important detail that I haven't mentioned until now is that in that house it was almost normal for us to see dark shadows in different areas. The kitchen was likely the worst place. And we grew up like this, seeing and feeling all of this, so it was something practically every day for us. But I want to point out that it didn't go beyond this. They were just dark silhouettes or simple noises. Except for what happened to my youngest sister. At one point, she started saying that she couldn't sleep because something was attacking her during the night. So my mom put something on her, and I never forgot this. Under her bed, taped with some tape, there was a piece of paper with something written on it. With Virom simply, where she had drawn some circles that overlapped each other, some lines that also went across the whole drawing, and a kind of pentagram with some rather strange symbols. I never knew what it was about, but apparently, according to her, it was a kind of protection. The thing is, from that day on, my sister was never the same again. Overnight, she completely shut down, and I could swear we never saw her smile again, even though she was a 9-year-old girl who used to have so much fun. And just so you understand what I'm saying, even today, she's 24 years old and she's still like that, completely shut down. Living with them in the same house, in the same room, and I'm sure she still has that paper stuck under her bed. I left home as soon as I turned 18. After a while, my other brother left too, and my sister was the one who stayed living with them. We tried to get her out of there, but she refuses to move no matter what. She doesn't have a job because she helps them. And we know very well that there's probably something else keeping her there, something pretty dark. And I say this last part because when we started talking at home about moving out on our own, I was 17 and my brother was 15. That's when my old man got really angry when he found out about this. And he said that the family never separates, that it would never separate, and that we had the little house in the back to move into when we turned 18. Obviously, we didn't want that. We wanted to escape from that place that was hurting us so much. That just stayed there. But the painful thing was that once, while checking the freezer we had in a little room where the laundry was, where we kept meat, vegetables and other items, I found at the bottom of this freezer a jar of jam with liquid inside, completely frozen. But not only that. In the jar, there were 3 photos, my siblings and me. I grabbed it in the moment, without thinking, and took it to the vacant lot around the corner from my house. I broke it, removed the photos, and tore them up, leaving me with one of the worst feelings of my entire life. My own parents were determined to do us harm. We were their children, or rather, unfortunately, we are their children. Another important point is that my sister was sick for almost her entire adolescence for different reasons. And my folks never took her to the doctor. They always healed her with their own methods, and they did the same with us too. I remember one time I had mumps, and the diagnosis, even though it might seem totally unacceptable, was given by my aunt, not a doctor, because they didn't take me to the hospital. My parents healed me. And believe it or not, in 2 or 3 days, I was totally recovered, but afterwards, for almost a month, I had to make offerings to a little statue they had left in the living room at home. It was black and had, if I remember correctly, red and yellow colors, but I don't remember many more details. I had to light a candle for it, light a cigarette, or also put a little bit of whiskey in a small glass. I think it was a drink like that. According to my mom, she said that when you ask for something, you have to be polite and repay the favor granted. Those are phrases that stayed with me for life, and look, many years have gone by. My brother lives happily with his family. I'm also married with 2 children. We both moved out of the province, and this was only to get as far away from them as possible. Today, communication is solely through WhatsApp messages. With our sister, with our parents, we completely cut off all ties years ago. We know that regardless of their age, they're still working at the same thing, in the same house, and in the same room. And I can't stop thinking that the day they're gone and that house is sold and another family moves in, that room will be the epicenter of a lot of paranormal activity. The door to that room had, at least back then, a little board with a symbol on it, which, according to my dad, was to keep things at bay. What should never be let out? My sister still lives with our parents. She has never been in a relationship, has no friends, no job, and nothing else except that house. And my parents, who are already quite old. Currently, my brother and I are still trying to get her to move out, even if it's just to the little house in the back. And from there, little by little, convince her with professional help so that she takes the final step to escape from that hell, which was my home,